For this tutorial, we're going to be using two files, Module 1 Exercise A, Learning to Edit. If you scroll down, you're going to see this opening Premiere for the first time. We're going to be using Hedgehog and Waterfall. You can simply click on these videos. I'm on a Mac too, so your file system will be different. Your key system will be different for a PC, and I'll show you how to get that in a second. But on a Mac, you control click and you say Save Video As. And you can save these files to your desktop and change this name so it's not this long funky name. I called this Hedgehog. And go ahead and do the same exact thing for the waterfall exercise, which is right here. At the bottom of this, I do have a little keyboard differences between a Mac PC, so go ahead and click that if you're using a PC to find out what the differences are. I will be referring to Mac shortcuts, but mostly I'll be doing the menu. How to access things through the menu. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open up Premiere. It's owned by Adobe Creative Suite. It has the purple square with the PR, and we're going to say create a new project. And then we're going to go ahead for now. We're going to give this a project name. I'm going to call it Tester. And then one thing I forgot to tell you was that on your desktop, once you have these two, I'm going to hide Chrome. Once you have these two files on your desktop, I have Waterfall and Hedgehog, you need to create one folder that they can go in, and you can go ahead and just drag those files into that folder. I called my folder Tester, so if I look in there, those are my two files inside this. This is one of the most important things about video editing is to keep your files in one place, because if you lose a file or it's scattered somewhere else, Premiere won't know where it is, and you'll get this scary red screen that says cannot find media. So I'm going to give this a project name. I'm back in Premiere where it says project name on the top left corner. I'm going to type in Tester, and then project location. I'm going to go ahead and put this in that Tester folder, which is on my desktop. So again, everything lives within the same exact area. And now I'm just going to say create. And when I'm in Premiere, I can see that I have 4 different screens. This seems really technical if you've never opened up Premiere before, but once we get content in here, it will make a little bit more sense. This is my bin where I'm going to drag in media. This is my timeline. This is my program window, so these two are directly correlated. And this one kind of changes. This is my source window, and it can change based on whatever it is I'm working on. So I'm going to go ahead and import those two videos, the Hedgehog and the Waterfall. I could say File, Import, and find them here, or I could go to my folder and drag and drop. Who doesn't like a nice drag and drop? So I'm going to go ahead and see, there's our file here, project, a Premiere project. That's what that stands for. PRPROG. So when you see that, you know it's a Premiere file. Not only that, but the icon is right there too. I'm going to drag in Waterfall, and I'm going to drag in Hedgehog. Now, one thing that I want to just point out is that these are two different videos, two different sizes and lengths. The size is important because one of them is at 1080p and the other is at 720p, and that is just basically the resolution of that image. And I'm going to talk about that in the tutorial called aspect ratio. So to learn more about that, you can go to the tutorial called aspect ratio. If you hover over this, you can see though it says 1920 by 1080, which is what we're mostly going to be working with in this class, unless you want to go full res, and you have the space to do so with your computer. Okay, so this is my bin, right? This is where all my video is going to live. I'm going to go ahead and put Hedgehog. All I'm doing is taking it and dragging it into my timeline. Oh, look at this. It's starting to come together now. So here's my timeline. This yellow line means that it's partially rendered. I'm going to call this guy my playhead. I'm going to turn down the audio so you guys don't have to hear that. And these are called tracks. We have V tracks, which are video tracks, and A tracks, which are audio tracks. We have these little lock guys, so if you ever want to work with a different track, you can lock one. I'm going to talk about targeting tracks in a different tutorial, but these little blue rectangles are ways for you to say, hey, I want you to come onto this track, And I'll explain that in a short little tutorial coming up, but that's called targeting tracks. And this is our program window. So as I said before, right now we're only, it's pretty small, so I'm going to say, okay, zoom up to 75%. You can always use your this little drop down tool to control that. And I should say there's 100 ways to do the same exact thing in Premiere. So if you have your way of doing something and it doesn't go along with mine, just keep on doing it how you're doing it. That's totally fine. All right, so I have this hedgehog video on here. Again, it's 1280 by 720. And let's say, you know what, I actually wanted to go with the waterfall video. So what I'm going to do is I can just highlight it and delete it. And now if I pull over the waterfall video to the timeline, remember this one's 720, this one's 1080p. So if I pull it over here, it's like, hey, Premiere says this clip does not match the 720. It already created this sequence. A sequence is like a little container that holds the media. It doesn't match that original hedgehog, which was 720. So do you want us to change the size of the sequence to match this current clip setting? I do, because this is a bigger one. So I'm going to go ahead and say change sequence settings. So now this sequence is 1080p. You can always go up to sequence settings, and you can look and see what your dimensions are here. 1080p, as I said, the 16 by 9 is what we are going to use mostly in this class. It's what a lot of social media uses. Instagram obviously uses square, but 19 by 20 is pretty common. You can go higher if you want, but please try not to go lower than 1080p. And again, watch that aspect ratio tutorial to learn more about that. Okay, so here's this waterfall video. This is a really bad font. So how this works in your timeline is that you can drag this playhead like this. You can press your space bar and it will play it and pause it. So space bar acts as a play and pause. Let's get rid of this this header here, or this title screen. Unbelievable places around the world, because I personally can't stand that typeface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that playhead right where I want to cut it, and it's a little hard for me to see, so I just quickly want to show you these guys. You can zoom in. See where my cursor is right here? You can zoom in on your audio and your video track right here, which is really cool. Again, other ways to do that too. But if I want to cut it there, I want to zoom in on this. It seems like I'm kind of far away. So what you can do is use this bottom toggle, and you can zoom in to get just a little bit closer. Your playhead's staying in the exact spot of that video. It's just zooming in on the timeline. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead. There's a couple things I could do. I'm going to go ahead and use this trim tracker, which is right here. And I can trim that track right there. And then that way, it automatically cleaned that up for me, and I didn't have to move it. If I didn't have to move my clip back to the beginning. If I wanted to, so here's my whole clip right here, just zoomed out. If I wanted to use the razor blade, I'm just going to Command Z and show you how to do that real quick. So again, that title ends, zoom out, Tunnel of Love, Ukraine. I'm going to go to this razor blade right here, click over, go to my selection tool, that's this guy right here, and hit delete. And then, if in this case I have this empty space, so this tool, which was the ripple edit tool, automatically got rid of it. I can always, you know, just move this like that, or I can select this empty space and say Control Ripple Delete, and it will bing, bring it right back. So what I'm going to do is drag this guy forward, and I want it to end. Let's say I'm going to have it end, you know, with this Tianzi Mountains in China. I'll have it end there. So that's another way to end it. You can mix the things up in here too by um, moving your razor blade over, and you can just cut a whole bunch of different edits within here. And one other thing that you could do is that it's really easy to duplicate clips. I could just, if I wanted to duplicate this first clip, I can hold down my Option key, just Control key on a PC, hold it down, click, and drop. And now I have 2 clips, so that's an easy way to duplicate clips. Right now, this clip is linked with this audio clip. To unlink those clips, there's a couple different options. Probably the easiest is right here, is just to click that linked selection, and therefore those 2 things will no longer be selected. So I could unselect the audio and just move the video around, and now it has no audio to it. I didn't have to delete it, but I did. I could save it for a rainy day if I wanted to use that. Notice if I change the audio, it's telling me that I'm so many frames away from the original video clip that this is aligned with. One other thing I want to show you real quick is workspace options here. I'm using editing. If you ever get lost, or maybe you've zoomed in on one of these program windows, you can always go to this little icon that's just left. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, called Workspace if you hover over it. And you can see they are all give you different kinds of workspaces depending on what you're using. Every Adobe software does this, has a different sort of workspace outline. For me, I like editing for what we'll be doing in this class.